And the convergence of conference and collaboration technologies needs a cooperative consortium of industry players to ensure end-to-end video connectivity. This edition of TIA Now's webinar series, sponsored by OVCC, starts now. And connecting business to business through video and unified communications is the wave of the future, but how will we get there without a cohesive movement towards an interoperable network? The Open Visual Communications Consortium is one organization that is taking important steps towards connecting stakeholders in the next generation of visual communication services. Here to talk about how to capitalize on conference and collaboration technologies are three panelists. To my far left is Jeff Mills of Polycom. Jeff is a solutions architect with a focus on cloud and service providers. And next to Jeff is Greg Brophy, Director of Product Management and Integrated Business Video Solutions at Tata Communications. And next to me is Brian Washburn, Research Director at Network Services, Research Director Network Services at Current Analysis, excuse me. Gentlemen, welcome to the program today.
Thank you. Thank you. Great being here.
Thanks for making it down here and being part of TIA Now's programming at TIA 2012.
Glad to be here.
Thanks once again. We do have the pleasure of having a video by the OVCC. I'm going to go ahead and ask my director to roll that video just for a couple minutes, and we'll be right back with our panelists.
The dawn of a new age in video communications has arrived. The way we work, serve our customers, and drive the global economy is all about to undergo an unprecedented transformation. The staple of business communication is the telephone. If you select a phone, any phone at all, and dial, you'll have no worry as to the manufacturer, the type of phone, or network providers that are used in the completion of the call. Why can't we use video the same way we use the telephone? Imagine how a visually enabled world would transform industries like healthcare and education if you could simply dial a number from any video device and it worked the same way you experience with a traditional phone. The transformation to this new communication age is now underway with the emergence of an organization assembled to specifically address the requirements needed to enable video communication with the same ease and simplicity as a common phone call.
The human appetite for communication is very strong, and I do believe that video, this personal visual ability of video conference, will change the world.
For us, really, the benefit of OVCC is that we're bringing everybody together, we're setting common standards, common objectives, common processes, and it's allowing us to really accelerate the interconnection of our networks and therefore provide the service to the end customers much faster than we would have done.
Andrew and Orange Business Services are not alone. The OVCC continues to grow since opening membership in September 2011. Industry leaders of all shapes and sizes are joining the OVCC and preparing to take their customers into the next generation of ubiquitous visual communications.
The OVCC world of the future looks like a world of simplicity, whereby visual communications become prevalent for everyone, and the user's ability to join their meetings and to have meetings are much more simple than today.
OVCC is delivering interoperable, interconnected video to any enterprise, anytime, via any device. And this is the beauty of OVCC.
The visual transformation of the global workplace will touch every aspect of our daily lives. From patients needing a remote diagnosis, to students learning and participating in world events, to manufacturers, banks, architectural organizations. Everywhere where audio communications exist today, video is emerging and opening new opportunities to improve the world and enhance industries and lives alike. The transformation of our society to an age where video communication saves lives, educates new generations of students, and accelerates the speed of business and commerce is now underway. The Open Visual Communications Consortium is leading the industry transformation to a new tomorrow, a tomorrow that you can see as well as hear. OVCC. Any device, any vendor, any network.
And that was a great video, and just once again, I'd like to thank Jeff, Brian, and Greg, excuse me, and Brian. It's been a long day for being on the program today. Brian, I want to start with you. federated telepresence agreements exist today. Providers have agreed to connect to each other's exchanges, and that to make an inter-carrier managed telepresence experience possible. What's your experience in this space right now?
Well, thanks, Abe. And so far what we've seen is we're off to a start, but it is just a start. There has been one vendor in the telepresence immersive video industry that worked with the world's largest multinational providers in order to get some basic bilateral agreements in place. Those agreements have been kind of set in one at a time. It's been sort of slow going, and after an 18-month start to this, we've got maybe 5, 6, 7 agreements per these major carriers, but there's a lot of potential to get the larger carrier community and other managed service providers in on some sort of a much larger opportunity to interconnect, and that, I believe, is what OVCC is in a very good position to enable.
Yeah, Brian, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, Tata Communications, as you know, has been at the inter-exchange business for 18 months to 2 years, with the lead in terms of the number of inter-exchange connections that we have. But I think the key is, as you point out, is building the community, right, and growing the community, and I think that's where the real potential lies as we grow the community and expand the ability for one another, and users to talk to one another.
Yeah, and where we've seen in the past with your exchanges in the video space, one of the unique parts about OVCC is it not only has managed video providers in the space, but you also see manufacturers and software developers as well.
Now, Jeff, I want to go to you on this question. What are some of the industry's lessons learned for OVCC's interoperability standards and best practices?
Well, I think the most important lesson learned would be there's no start and stop date around interoperability. Within the OVCC, we're very fortunate to have some of the best lab and personnel environments from our service provider space to build this interoperability lab. As we see the services and new product introductions into the space, there will be a continual need for interoperability testing, and that's one of the major hurdles for us.
Yeah, I think to Jeff's point, though, the good news is this is something that the carrier community has been doing for a long time for voice. We understand how to do interoperability, support one another, and work through these NNI agreements, and now we're seeing the market momentum driving that.
Now, Brian, of course, standards are integral to any rollout of any new technology, as you know, in recent past and going forward, projecting forward. Let's talk about those standards for a while. Let's talk about video and unified communications and open standards. What's your experience in that space right now?
Well, so far, what we've seen is there are a set of open standards, but there are still folks who are not yet on board in terms of having completely compliant clients that will work with the rest of the video industry. What we've got these days are, the immersive video folks have begun to be able to interoperate with one another, but we still have a lot of clients down on the lower end with Microsoft Lync and Skype that are not yet completely open and able to interoperate with the rest of the stack. And there's many millions of potential video users that are in that part of the stack that could become part of the overall video community.
And Jeff, Brian talked about interoperability. If you can, walk us through the next short-term and long-term steps for the OVCC and their steps in going towards interoperability right now.
Yeah, so we'll certainly continue on as we are right now, but we'll see the community within the interoperability lab grow within OVCC. So our initial offer is going to be a meet me type of service. Once we start introducing point-to-point capabilities, that will include such things as mobile devices. We'll see an infusion of unified communications being plugged into it as well.
I'm glad you mentioned, oh, go ahead, Greg, did you want to say something?
No, I was just going to say, clearly the interoperability piece is a key factor. I think it's not just the standards, though, it's also the processes and procedures to support our customers, to make sure they have a good experience, and handle the billing and settlement and trouble resolution and all that surround stuff that maybe is taken for granted.
Now, Jeff, you referred to endpoints, and it's a great segue into our next question. And Brian, I'll start with you on this one, but feel free to chime in if you'd like. A Cisco video endpoint to a Polycom endpoint. there's an underlying architecture there. Can you explain that to us? And is it just about those endpoints, or does it go further than that?
Well, it will go a lot further than that. Right now, what we do have is integration that's happened between Cisco and Polycom and other vendors that support standards such as H.323 through Cisco's Telepresence Interoperability Protocol, or TIP. What we are looking at, though, is again the potential to bring in Microsoft Link and Skype and lots of other clients that will all be able to interwork with one another, and then through methods such as the OVCC, be able to provide inter-carrier connectivity and settlements and an entire managed service experience that just works for end users.
Yeah, certainly there's within a closed environment, enterprise space, I mean, there's certainly the possibility of doing a TIP call between a Cisco and Polycom, but it goes much greater and much farther beyond that. When we're looking at interoperability and the business-to-business nature of that call, there's many other parts and pieces that influence that capability, whether it be the infrastructure around SBCs, call control. There's many other influences that can influence that interoperability task.
And I think to that point, Jeff, you know, we've lived through some of the craziness where we had 800 numbers that you could only be dialed from an 800 network, or SMS that you couldn't text somebody on another network. Think of those days. Right now, where we have ubiquitous SMS, we need to get to the same place from a video perspective.
Well, let's talk about how to get these video networks to function properly. Signaling and addressing are two components that we talked about in our pre-show. And Greg, can I go to you on this question? And again, you guys can chime in if you'd like. What is the importance of signaling and addressing? And first of all, give us an overview of what that is, by the way.
Well, so primarily signaling and addressing is, how do I know how to reach you? What is it? Your email address, your SIP URI, which is becoming more prominent, or the traditional E164, your phone number, right, which has been used for decades as a method to reach and find somebody and route people through the network. We find that E164 and the SIP URI are the two predominant methods, evolving as the number identification or end user identification to use to reach somebody.
Yeah, certainly the addressing is a big challenge, and again, the way that OVCC is going to address it initially is with the E164s and URI dialing. Around the signaling side of it as well, I mean, we see a large group that's using H.323 within their enterprise space, as well as the service provider space. Within OVCC, we're going to standardize on the SIP protocol. So that will be the responsibility of the service provider to do that conversion at their locations.
And I'd like to add to that, from the analyst side of things, looking at it from the enterprise perspective, these are challenges for vendors and for service providers to implement. However, if enterprises are going to insist that they want enum, E164 dialing, or SIP URIs, I've got every confidence that the service provider and vendor community will step up and make sure that those techniques will be available for the enterprises that demand them.
Now let's talk about connecting the world via video. And I'll go to you, Brian. What are some of the challenges when you're trying to get everybody on the same page, going in the same direction? Everyone's trying to monetize their own revenues, or trying to monetize their own product and create new revenue streams. But again, everybody has to work in some sort of synergy, I would imagine. What's the obstacle or obstacles there?
Well, it's funny that you bring this up, Babe, because we've seen in our experience, even when I've been visiting with major vendors, that they still have trouble with unmanaged video getting the technology to work at times. It is not necessarily that simple, and that's one of the ways that it's fairly important to get, say, for instance, a managed service provider that can give the whole one button to push or no button to push experience that makes it that much easier for them just to make the technology work. So that's one aspect.
Can you elaborate on that as from a carrier's perspective? Or?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. You know, those are key characteristics. We also see, though, as the mobile devices are exploding, more and more devices where end users will look for not a managed environment, but an unmanaged environment. And we're going to have to develop the solutions and capabilities to support anybody to anybody, anytime, any place, anywhere, right, from an endpoint perspective.
Yeah, I certainly think the value of that managed component of it is, somebody is looking after the network, somebody is looking after the security. So while it may be invisible to the end user themselves, I mean, they are working within that managed space, which is certainly of great value to the enterprises.
I think that was a key point made this morning in the keynote. Right? Yeah. The network makes it look easy.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, Jeff, if you don't mind, and the question is this: what is the OVCC doing around settlements in commercial terms? Is that a
I'll let one of my service providers say it, but I mean, it's the settlement in the commercial terms is not something set within the OVCC, but again, it's not something new to the service providers themselves. They've been dealing with this since the voice days, the mobile days, and now the data days. So it's something that they're used to working with, and I'll let Greg elaborate on that a little bit. Yeah,
no, Jeff, you're right. With 7 or 8 inter-exchange agreements today, the first thing we tackle is the settlement process, and how do we both make money at this, right? If you don't have that piece worked out, nobody's going to be interested in participating. Right? So we work that first, we get that out of the way, and then the technical pieces fall in line and the processes fall in line behind that.
Yeah, and I can add to that, there's really pretty much 3 different places that are important, or you can divide it into 3 different categories, or you can chop it up in different ways as well. But really, if you're looking at intercarrier, it's important to have the contracting and SLAs figured out between carriers so that they know that they're going to have a certain levels of reliability. It's important to get the billing and settlements figured out so that everyone knows that they're going to get paid. And then third, it's important to figure out the customer service and support so that if something does go wrong, you know who to contact in order to try and fix the problem between carriers. And again, these are all sort of the fundamental building blocks. OVCC will help to set the frameworks to enable carriers to figure out how to more easily negotiate this with one another.
And Brian, as an analyst, wouldn't it be nice if there were other organizations out there that work so well as the OVCC? And of course, we're talking about unified communications and telepresence, but there's other a myriad of industries out there that would benefit from an organization like this. And I know they do exist, I know that, but it just seems like this is a little more of a tight-knit community and a bit more organized, I would say.
Well, I think this tight-knit community is going to be getting a whole lot bigger over time, because there are a lot of other managed service providers that haven't really been able to get into the visual communication space as kind of a peer and figure out how to work bilateral agreements with one another. So yeah, there are plenty of other standard-setting organizations, but I don't believe there are others that are approaching it quite the way that OVCC does with visual communications and intercarrier managed video experiences.
Yeah, and I would comment on that. One of the other values from an OVCC perspective is that we have the equipment vendors there with us, struggling through, feeling the pains that we're going through from delivering the services, and working with us side by side to build the solutions that we can roll out services on. So I think it's unique in that perspective rather than just a standards body.
Well, it's great to have all 3 of you on the segment today. It's interesting for me to see different parts of the industry come together, and I used the word earlier, forced to work together, but maybe that wasn't the right terminology. But I guess we're all working towards the same thing and becoming an interoperable network. I think that's what TI 2012 is all about as well. So,
yep.
Thanks for your time and being here.
Thank you.
Thanks again. And to our audience, once again, thank you to Brian, Greg, and Jeff for being a part of TI Now's webinar series from the show floor at TI 2012 inside the network. TI Now's live stream and programming schedule through 2:30 p.m. Central Time on Thursday, June 7th, that's tomorrow, can be viewed by logging onto our homepage at tinow.org. And also on our multimedia website, you can watch this segment along with all of our event programming on demand and in its entirety. Thanks for watching. So long for now.